I know it's all you've got to just be strong. And it's a fight just to keep it together.
Welcome, and thank you for joining us for another episode of It's a Family Affair, the podcast for families by families. My name is Karen, and I'm a member of the Mothers Union of St. George's Anglican Church. With me today is a member of our congregation here at St. George's, Sister Dr. Janelle Nelson. I will tell you a little bit more about Dr. Janelle later on in the show. As many of you may know, if you watched our last episode, during the month of May, the Mothers Union will be sharing a series of short videos, and I do mean short, with information on mental health that we hope will be useful to you and your family. The theme this year for Child Month is Act Now, Stand Against Child Abuse and Exploitation. And today, our very special guest will share with us how various adverse childhood experiences, ACEs for short, can significantly affect the mental health and well-being of our children. So, a little bit about Dr. Janelle. Dr. Janelle Antoinette Nelson is currently a registered clinical forensic psychologist. No, it's not from NCIS, with the Council for Professions Allied with Medicine, CPAM, here in Grand Cayman, Cayman Islands. She is also licensed with the Allied Health Council of St. Lucia as a clinical psychologist. Dr. Nelson is the managing director of SIDA Consultants Limited, which provides psychological assessments and therapeutic interventions. She's specialized in trauma, polyvictimization. You will probably have to tell me a little bit about that.
A little bit about that, yes, absolutely.
And adverse childhood experiences among adolescents and young children, and has worked in the field of mental health for over 15 years. Dr. Janelle, as we call her at church, is a therapist, researcher, author, regional speaker, and advocate for trauma-informed policy and care for children. We here at the Mothers Union are very pleased that Dr. Janelle has taken the time to be with us here today. And I thank you on behalf of the Mothers Union and welcome you to It's a Family Affair.
Thank you so much for having me. It is indeed an honor and a huge, it's such a pleasure to be here, to speak about something that is very, very dear to me. Everyone who knows me knows that I am very, very passionate about early childhood experiences, about trauma, using trauma-informed practices and care, etc. So it is indeed an honor to be here.
It is a pleasure to have you here. So, without further ado, because I did promise that it's going to be a very short video. If y'all want longer, y'all need to come to, St. George's Anglican Church.
Absolutely.
So, what is ACEs and how does that affect the mental health and well-being of our children?
So in a nutshell, ACEs refer to a set of factors or situations, early childhood experiences that happened that research has shown to cause trauma and traumatic experiences. Really early in the, like 1995, 1997, a study was conducted by the Kaiser Permanente Clinic out in California, and they investigated a set of 10 factors. And these things looked at things like neglect and abuse, to household dysfunction, things like domestic abuse, whether or not there was drugs or alcohol in the family, whether or not a parent or a relative had been incarcerated. 10 different situations, and they linked that to the health and the care of adults. What they found was that persons who reported having a number of these situational factors at home and early childhood experiences, they were the ones who were considered to be in worst health. Now, that was really an eye-opening study, because it means then that these 10 situations or these 10 factors significantly impacted not just in the short term, but long-term health of persons. Mm-hmm. Now, that study, like I said, started in 1995, but it really morphed into a larger study, and that's where polyvictimization comes in. And what polyvictimization is, it's really looking at victimization, and that's in terms of being a victim of a particular thing. So it's being a victim of different types of experiences. So different types of adverse experiences. Now, back in 1995, it started with just 10 factors. Now it has grown to 34 to 36 different types of experiences.
Wow.
Absolutely. Because remember, back in those days, you didn't have things like cyberbullying. The community wasn't investigated in terms of the impact of living in a violent community, how that impacted children. Sexual harassment, exploitation of children, that was not investigated. So the 10 factors now is considered very, very limiting. And so you have these 34 to 36 different types of experiences that also can be considered ACEs. So in a nutshell, what we're looking at when we speak about ACEs, we're looking at different types of childhood experiences, negative experiences, that has the potential to create and to cause trauma in children.
Oof.
Now, it's a sensitive topic, but I think it's something that we really need to speak about, because if we are aware not just of the particular situations themselves, like domestic abuse, living in a deprived neighborhood, having parents who are on, let's say, drugs or alcohol, that sort of thing, parents who are incarcerated, physical abuse, neglect. It's not just about looking at the different experiences, but looking at how these experiences impact children in the short term and also in the long run. And that's why I'm a big advocate for learning about ACEs, knowing about it, and also knowing how it affects children and their mental health.
Thank you for that, because, I grew up in pretty grimy circumstances in Jamaica. And when I first heard about ACEs, I realized that my lived experience, my ACE that I'd experienced, had a lot to do with how I am today. So my next question to you is, are there things that we as parents and caregivers can do to either reverse the trauma that our children experience or lessen the impact somehow?
Absolutely, absolutely. One of the things to look out for, and we'll get into the actual impact and how ACEs really affect children, but how do you support children who are in situations like that where they are exposed to ACEs? One of the most important things is building a safe and trusting environment. That is paramount. Consistency is key for children. Children need predictability, they need routines. So having structured mealtime, bedtime, school, that type of consistency is extremely important. The tone and the environment, the emotional environment of the home is also extremely important. Kids need to feel that they are able to speak to adults and that they can open up. And as a result, parents at home need to be emotionally available to kids. What we're seeing now is that parents are so very engrossed with their phones and with their tablets and iPads and all these different devices, that we're seeing a rise in emotional neglect, emotional abuse among children. So it's really important to create that kind of safe and trusting environment and to be emotionally available to kids. Another thing that parents can do is also to assist kids in expressing their feelings and naming their feelings. A lot of times, and this is where emotional dysregulation comes in, because you have kids as a result of ACEs who are not able to regulate their emotions as well as they should. And so from the get-go, you really need to give kids the language to be able to express themselves. So using things like feeling charts and books, or even role playing in helping kids to identify emotions from really early, let's say from around 3 or 4, what parents can do, they can use the feelings chart to help kids identify when they are upset, what are you feeling? And let them know that it's okay to feel angry, and learning and teaching them appropriate ways to act and behave when they are in that heightened state, or when they are angry or upset. So really knowing how to verbally express feelings, that's really important.
Okay.
Another thing that I would tell, one more thing that I would tell parents as well is prioritizing connection over correction.
Expand on that a little bit for me.
Connection over correction. So a lot of times when kids do things, parents are very, very quick to correct them and correct the behavior rather than really understanding where the child may be coming from. So I'm not advocating for allowing defiant behavior or anything like that. But what I'm saying is respond with curiosity and not just punishment. So instead of what happened to cause this, what's wrong? Tell me what happened.
Okay.
Using time ins rather than time outs. So putting children in punishment and sitting with them in punishment, just so that you can begin that dialogue is really, really important. So the connection that you have with the child is much more important than how you correct the child. Because if you don't have that bond with your child, then you can do all the correcting that you want to do, but it's not going to change any behavior. And even the research is showing now that the parental bond between a parent and the child is extremely important, not just in self-regulation, but in academic performance in almost everything.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Ooh, this has been this has been an eye-opener. As you were talking, I'm thinking of another episode to speak about how to speak with your child, connection versus correction. So I might call upon you again to have that discussion.
That's fine. But that's one thing I always tell parents, because a lot of time parents bring their kids to me for me to fix their kids. But I have to say to them, connection before correction, yes. Right? It's all about the relationship that you have with your kid.
Amen. Yeah. Dr. Janelle, thank you so much once again for providing us with all this very important and relevant information about ACEs. As a wise man once said to me, every day is a school day. In the meantime, if you are someone you know is having a mental health crisis, please call 911 if you are in the Cayman Islands or 119 if you're in Jamaica. For confidential counseling services, please feel free to contact the Care Ministry of St. George's Anglican Church at 6 to 7 Courts Road on the following dates and times: Mondays from 10 to 12 noon and 5 to 7 p.m., Wednesdays from 11 to 1 p.m., Fridays from 10 a.m. to noon, and Saturdays from 10 a.m. to noon. If you wish to schedule a time outside of these hours, please feel free to call us on 938-9277 to book an appointment. And always remember, neither you or your children
are stronger than you know.